Take two. And
Take
action.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm Jennie Ritchie of Jennie Ritchie Photography. I'm so excited to tell you a little bit more about my photography journey and how I got into it. Um, Although I've always considered myself a bit of an artistic person, my relationship with photography began later in life when my first son was born. I was talking with Barry about how a lot of photography journeys are very personal, and mine is no different. It started with my son. Um, it was Christmas morning 2015, and my son had just turned 1 year old a few months prior to that in October. My husband gifted me my first DSLR camera, a Nikon D3300. I was so thrilled. I instantly started photographing my son as he played with the gifts that Santa had just brought for him. Later that evening, my brother-in-law gave me a card to purchase my first Adobe products, Lightroom and Photoshop, and my in-laws gifted me my first tripod. Everything fit together perfectly, and I was so excited to try out my new gear. A few months later, I signed up for a class locally with a newborn photographer in Scotts Valley, where I live, to learn more about my camera and how it operated. She introduced me to the settings on my camera and even brought her kids in as models for us to practice on. I remember taking a photo of her daughter smiling and catching her green eyes with such clarity in my lens and being so excited about how much I was learning in my photography class. Fast forward to the next several months of me practicing often. I photographed everything from the little nooks and crannies in my home to the ocean to anything rusty I could find. But my favorite subject was my son, Jack. I just felt the need to document everything in a way that I had never done before. I continued to educate myself and found that there were so many ways to learn about my newfound hobby. I began watching tutorials online. I was like a sponge, consuming as much information as possible. It's easy to get overwhelmed making the switch in camera settings from auto to manual mode, and I had a lot to learn. It took a lot of experimenting with the exposure triangle to learn to work my settings cohesively and with confidence. I kept seeing images as I took classes online and could not quite figure out how to get my images to match the ones that I saw. I scrolled through countless blurry or out of focus images as I was learning, not to mention the amount of times I thought I had totally nailed the photo, only to pull it up on my computer and find that the settings were all off and I had to try again. I continued watching online videos and tutorials, found that YouTube was a huge help, especially when troubleshooting a specific camera setting or if a problem came up while I was shooting. In 2018, I had my second son, Wyatt. I turned the kids' train table into a photo prop, and I would stack pillows up as bolsters and lay a neutral blanket over the whole thing and turn my living room into a photo studio. I would buy trifold poster boards at the Dollar Tree to use as a backdrop for milestone sessions. Prior to purchasing my first real fabric backdrop, I also hung a large green blanket up on my porch where there was lots of natural light and had my toddler, along with my older son and husband, pose for me in my makeshift backdrop so I could get the practice. I did the same for holidays using a crate and a Christmas blanket and some lights. Then for summer, I had both the kids lay on a blue blanket, continuing my theme of my at-home studio. The kids were amazing, and I always tried to make it fun for them. Throughout this whole time, I was continuing to hone in on my Photoshop skills. Photoshop felt so overwhelming, and I had no idea what the icons in the panels meant. There were so many. Being primarily a self-taught photographer, I spent countless hours tinkering with settings and exploring the seemingly endless tools I found in this amazing software. In addition to that, I was practicing all the time. I had someone local come over to teach me Photoshop, and I would take a break if the baby got fussy and then go right back to our lesson. It took lots of perseverance to hang in there with Photoshop and not allow myself to be overwhelmed by all the possibilities. Okay, I'm going to pause here to show you a little bit of my early work.
So
Yeah.
Jenny, we now need to go into share screen.
Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see here. In Zoom. Share. Let's see here. There we go. Does that look like it's successfully? Yep. Okay. Now I'll go back into this. Ooh. Does that look like it's all right? Yeah. Okay. Is it okay if I slide this panel to the side there? Okay. Oops. Okay.
Yeah, you might want to just, you can close that whole panel by going to the top of there.
Right here, minus.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Just say okay.
Okay. Thanks for bearing with me.
Take that one off.
This X that? Okay. Okay.
And slide that green one up to the edge there.
Let's see.
Stuff here.
Do I grab it from here? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Good. Okay, that'll work.
It looks like it tucked away maybe. Okay. Let me know if it's blocked. I'll try to keep an eye on if it's blocking any other words. Here's some early photos of the kids, like I was mentioning. Up here, so these are both my younger son. That is the Dollar Tree backdrop that I put up behind him. Just really trying to get that look that I was going for with just a clean look. Clearly here working with a fabric backdrop. He's actually playing with my lens cap to keep him distracted. That was him in his Halloween costume. Here's another milestone session on the bed, just trying to look for, I knew I wanted a clean background, but I wasn't able to quite make that translate into my work. Still trying to kind of figure it out. Here's some images that I was excited about at the time, getting a little bit closer to what I was hoping to get from my photography. I remember being so excited that I was able to freeze the water droplets in that third image on the right. And still to this day, I use sun creatively, like in this image here on the far left. I kind of break the rules in photography in that way. I love to shoot towards the sun. I love to get little rainbows and sun flares in my images. So I was getting closer to where I wanted to be, but still not quite able to capture the exact images I was hoping to. Here is where I set up that blanket on my front porch. You can tell we have like an indoor patio. Getting my kids to try to pose for me. Clearly my little guy was trying to tear apart the backdrop in that one. Continuing on with practicing. You'll see her on the left, my first time trying out a reflector. I was using the gold side of the reflector, so really strong warm tones there on their skin tones, as you can tell. I finally invested in a fabric backdrop, which at the time I was really excited about. So on the right-hand side there, just practicing, learning how to get tension in the fabric so that I can create a clean backdrop. So still lots of practice, early stages. This is not Scotts Valley. This was we went out of town somewhere up in the mountains. I don't remember exactly where. So this up here says early experimental photos. So I was so thrilled about this image. I even titled it Purple Branches, and I later came to find out that actually what caused the branches to be purple was a bit of chromatic aberration, which is an optical phenomenon that occurs when a lens fails to focus all the colors of light at a single point, causing color fringing and blurriness around high contrast edges. So actually, now when I go through and edit my images, I try to remove the chromatic aberration, but I was just experimenting. I was so excited for the colors that I got in that image. Can you point exactly where you should be looking at that aberration? Yeah, so here we're seeing some these purple tones in the branches, more like where the snow hits the contrast of the dark branches kind of. So all this here, I was really excited and I thought that I had captured something special. And then after finding out more information about it, realized that it was actually, now when I edit, it's something that I remove from my images, consciously remove. Continuing to experiment. This is my sister. Her now husband had just proposed. So they trusted me with their proposal photos, which was brave of them. So here I'm experimenting with a backlit photo. You can see it's a little blown out beneath his chin. New posing techniques, trying to show off the engagement ring. And then some creativity in Photoshop, using an overlay to create that texture. So just kind of exploring, definitely heavy-handed in editing in the early days. And light painting on a camping trip. This was out in the Davenport area. And I was so excited. You can see by our feet here that this is my son and I, and we took a flashlight of some sort and we're spinning it around. And I was so excited that I had caught that in camera. Just lots of experimenting in the early days. Fast forward to 2020 and COVID hit. I was a stay-at-home mom with a kindergartner trying to learn via Zoom and a 1.5-year-old toddler. My husband is an essential worker and he was our go out into the world person. I felt trapped and isolated. I feel like this was a bit of a turning point for me, as this is when I really began to lean into photography and visual arts in a new way. Practicing my craft became an escape from the stress of what was going on in the world around me, and also a way to process my reality. I began photographing images around my house and seeing my environment in a way I hadn't before. I took my first photography courses at Cabrillo and learned how to make diptychs and triptychs with the images I had captured in my backyard. I began documenting everything. Every time the kids would wave to a family member through the window without being able to hug them. Every time I was surprised to find yet another "this park is closed" sign, and all the things that felt so oddly important. I even spent one whole day just driving around with my family, hoping to document some of the COVID signage because it felt so important to capture it all. I wanted to be able to show these photos to my kids and grandkids one day and tell them what a strange time in history it was. And so I'll move on to show you some of these images. So this at the top says creativity during COVID and early Photoshop. So lots of experimenting. This is my early Photoshop days. Just capturing a ton of images around my home, feeling like too many balls were in the air, trying to Zoom teach my kindergartner and having a toddler at home. Creativity was really a way to express myself and kind of process what was going on at that time. Here's an image documenting COVID. This was my sister saying hi to my kids through the window. My younger son was immune compromised, so we had to be very careful. And so you can see by my son's expression, he was clearly so excited. Just more documentation. Here's my son social distancing with grandma, eating breakfast. He's eating his little chocolate donuts there. Just documenting a lot of signage locally. I felt like it was really important. And they were photos that I would look back on one day and be able to share with my family and say, wow, what an odd time in history. And this image, again, we're getting closer to my work now, closer to where I wanted to be. I feel like this image really conveys the emotion of what was going on at that time. My son's sitting there, he's looking disappointed. It really kind of speaks to what was going on at that time. I also have this book of images that are COVID images that I took that is it okay if I pass it around for people to look at? And it was just more documentation of what was going on at the time. all kinds of images that really spoke to me. And through a Cabrillo class, that was one of our big projects, was that I printed that book. During that time, I began to watch Adobe Live tutorials online. It was kind of like my time to focus on something other than what was going on in the world. I would follow along with the tutorials and try to create the projects myself. The projects I would work on started to look more and more like what I saw in the tutorials. The more time I spent practicing and working on my craft. I began to use Photoshop and Lightroom more to experiment with what could be done artistically. From then on, every birthday invite or Valentine's card was a Photoshopped image that I had created. I loved challenging myself to manipulate the images, color match with the background environment, or mask particular objects to blend my scenes together. My dad is a house painter, and everyone comments on his attention to detail, and I think I got this from him. I would zoom in and out, studying my images carefully to make sure they were cohesive and just the way I wanted them. So now I'm going to move on to show you some of my early Photoshop work, continuing on as I was doing Adobe tutorials. This is where it started to look more like the examples online. Still hear the theme of COVID isolation, you know, a lot going on that we were processing through as a family. This is a little bit, let me see if I can slide this. Oh, I'll just read it to you. I designed.
Oh, that's okay. It went away.
Oh yeah, is that okay? Okay. I designed the kids' Halloween masks in Photoshop, which I was really excited about. Again, being able to focus my creativity for something positive and good. You can see here in the picture where my son is a truck that he's wearing the mask that I had designed. Let's see what else we have here. Whoops. There we go. Still experimenting. This center image was a project that was for a Cabrillo class. And the two on the outside just working with blending different textures and scenes, overlaying images on top of one another. Continuing on, this is very on the nose for COVID, but we really felt like we were in a bubble. So this was, you know, taking that idea and really channeling it through creatively and processing that. This image is titled Underwater. I was experimenting with overlays. These are clearly lightning overlays with some bokeh on the top. I remember spending so much time masking the water to make it look just like I wanted, like it was just pouring into the room. And then here's some more fun ones as I continued on. My son in his little safari outfit. And then this was like a milkshake rainstorm. My son is poking a thing of whipped cream with a stick. I tried to make it very like interactive. And then talking about like holiday cards, birthday invites, they were all designed by me. I was so proud. My son, his favorite animal is a crab, and I was working with like the shadow of the crab casting over, and that's overlaid over top of an image of his favorite beach. So I tried to make them really personal and kind of channel everything in that way. I began photographing other things and tried practicing with cousins and family at unique locations to work on my photography skills. Things kept evolving with time. I continue to offer free sessions to family members and friends, and honestly, anyone that I could get in front of my lens to build up my photography portfolio. Finally, in 2021, I decided to try photographing other people's families. In autumn of 2021, I set up some dates to shoot mini sessions in my parents' front yard. They have a pretty big house, and my dad has several fruit trees in the yard, creating a sort of mini orchard for my soon-to-be clients. The drive behind creating these mini sessions was to provide other families with a way to document their memories in the same way I had done for my own family. The phrase, "the days are long, but the years are short," really rings true, and I wanted to share this experience of documentation with other families. I was so excited for my upcoming autumn mini sessions. I gave the clients the choice between pumpkin and apple sessions, and I set up different sets for each of them. I had hay bales, stalks of corn, a harvest garland, and pumpkins for the pumpkin minis. And instead of pumpkins, I added a half wine barrel with apples spilling out for apple minis. Clients at Apple Minis also got to taste test some of the props, which was an added bonus. It felt important to me to utilize local resources. I got the stalks of corn from a market in Capitola, the apples from Gizditch Ranch. I meticulously prepared everything from my set to where I would take them to shoot. I sort of had it set up in stations throughout the yard, and I tried to create a flow to the session. I scheduled them for 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Saturday, switching off between apple and pumpkin minis. I created a Google spreadsheet and documented who had booked when and how many family members were in each photo party, along with the ages of the kids if I had the information. Each session had a number corresponding with the contract that I would have them sign, and contracts could be found on a little festive table I had set up near the house. Before I knew it, it was time for my first session. I was nervous going out into the front yard to meet my first client. I still remember the feeling. I had spent so much time preparing my props, but I soon realized that there was the whole additional struggle of learning how to pose the human body and learning how to direct a shoot. My first client was a single parent to 3 kids, and I photographed the boys balancing pumpkins on their heads while her daughter peeked her head out from behind one of the trees. And then we captured photos of the 4 of them. They grouped together in the way we do when someone says, "Let's take a picture." But there was very little directing on my part in those early sessions. I sort of just guided them through the stations. Start by the tree with the fall garland, move down to the lower part of the yard with the hay bales, and then if we had time, we could pose with my dad's rusty wheelbarrow, which honestly kind of fit the pumpkin and apple aesthetic and farm vibes. When my first client left the session, she let me know later that her kids told her it was the most fun they had ever had at a photo session. I was so excited for her kind words, and I knew I was in the right place, and this was what I was meant to do. After the early sessions, I came to the realization that even though I had planned to shoot in the shaded locations in the yard, the sun had moved, which I had not realized would have such an effect on the shooting process. I had to quickly come up with a solution before my next weekend of mini sessions. I had planned to shoot throughout the whole day, not accounting for the change in light. As you'll find throughout my story, my family supporting me is a very common theme, and this situation was no different. I purchased a large rectangular backdrop off Amazon, and my dad and husband climbed up on ladders into the tall tree to weave it through the branches, creating a short sort of shade structure in the parts of the tree where the light would leak through. It was very much a family effort to get the lighting right. I'm very fortunate to have such an amazing support system. The photos I delivered to those first few mini section clients were not my best work, but I put my best foot forward and worked so hard to give them a memorable experience and images to match. I went on to host holiday minis that same year at a local Christmas tree farm. And I remember one of my clients telling me that my mini session prices were so low, they thought my ad was a scam. I created the same flow, moving clients from one station to another, sit on the holiday blanket at one location, pretend to place a star on the tree at another. I liked keeping my clients moving, and it somewhat helped with the fact that I was still in the beginning stages of learning how to pose and prompt my subject. And then I'll show you some early mini session work here. This was my very first mini session client. Where I was talking about they were balancing pumpkins on their head, they were jumping off of hay bales. They had so much fun, which I was so excited about. You can tell that they kind of just clumped together to pose. There wasn't a lot of direction on my part, but they just had a blast, and I was so excited to get to share that experience with them. This is what I was talking about. I worked really hard on my set with the harvest garland and the hay stalks, creating that sort of framing. Here's some more mini session clients from that first set of autumn minis. And actually the family in the middle, I just took their photos. They've been with me the whole time for years, which I'm so thrilled about. They really hung in there with me in the early days. And just some things looking back that I would have tweaked a little bit. Here, mom's got a couple of half-eaten apples in her hand on the far right. You know, a little bit of lighting stuff going on in this first image. So just kind of, again, getting closer to where I wanted to be, but not quite there yet. These I put on here because I just love the emotion. Again, I was really drawn to capturing those connections. You can tell there's a lot of happiness, a lot of emotion in these images. And that's what I really want to showcase through my work. Okay, I feel that when talking about my early client work, it's also important to talk about the social side of things. I'm very much an introvert doing an extrovert's job. When I was a little girl and someone would walk up and say hi to me, I was too shy to even respond. Only when my mom would force me to be polite would I reluctantly say hi back to whoever was trying to greet me. Fast forward to me trying to run a photography business. My job literally consists of me talking with strangers via email and then meeting them at picturesque locations to engage in small talk for an hour at a time. And the hardest times were when I would walk a client into the location before shooting would even begin. I had to create a social flow to my sessions too. If we're being honest, I still get nerves before sessions today. But over the years, I have found that's why I love doing this, because being a business owner and photographer pushes me to do things that terrify me, kind of like presenting today. And when I push through and do them anyway, it makes me feel like I can do anything. It's almost like going on a run. There's this perseverance and stamina required to really hang in there and not give up. And once you get back home, you feel great the rest of the morning. Chit-chatting with clients at a session and hearing about their families has taught me that we are all just doing our best, and there are so many things that are universal for all of us. Finding common ground and laughing with clients, and then coming home after the session feels like going on a good run. My background is in early childhood education, and I earned my associate degree in early childhood education with enough classes to be a preschool director. I was working in preschools for many years and learned so much through that experience. I currently work at an elementary school in Scotts Valley, where my kids go to school. I'm only there part-time, 4 days a week, as I'm also running my small business full-time. I think that my understanding of kids and the importance of letting them be themselves is a huge part of how I operate my business and interact with clients. Having an understanding of childhood development helps me navigate the trickier moments that can come up while trying to photograph kids and families. Prior to booking family portraits, I have my clients fill out a client intake interview where they have a chance to tell me about their little ones and if they have any special needs or any other information that would be helpful to know during our session. Parents can let me know if their child is slow to warm or if they have a favorite song they want me to play to help their kid open up. I have had kids bring transitional objects, which is something that makes them feel comfortable from going one place to another. I had a little girl bring a stuffed turtle while another little boy brought a dinosaur skeleton. And I welcome it all. And being that my kids are now 7 and 11, the middle school age that once made me nervous suddenly feels less intimidating. I've even figured out how to interact with high schoolers who were only at our session because their parents forced them to come. And you could tell. I always lead with kindness and compassion, even when the client may feel unsure or uncomfortable, or just flat out does not want to be there. I tried to relate to 2 teenagers at a recent session, letting them know I'll be super quick and get this done as fast as I possibly can so you can get back to your day. I think trying to let them know I see you, I understand this wasn't your choice, but mom really wants me to grab a picture of you goes a long way. I didn't know that then, but in retrospect, I think that my understanding and education surrounding children has always been a thread throughout the whole process of growing my business. So here's the transition kind of. This was me photographing. These are all family members. And so continuing to just practice. So working on posing, getting everyone in focus in my camera settings, masking out the subject of the image versus the background. And clearly that heavy hand in editing is still there on the far right as that image is very, very purple. So just so much practice going on over the years. This was my sister's wedding, who you saw earlier in her engagement session. So they wanted me to do their bridal portraits. This is on Westcliff. I'm sure you guys recognize it. And so I was trying to do a sky overlay, working with masking. We can see that the trees are kind of dark up there in the corners. I really like to do a lot of sky replacement in the early days. I do it not really too much at all now. But just continuing to work, continuing to practice. So these images are getting closer to where I want them. Again, lots of connection on the far right there, kind of using light creatively. We see that little flare in the top corner, incorporating some movement into sessions there in the middle. Experimenting with my style. So even just for those of us who photograph and edit images, greens can be a challenge, right? So just working with how I wanted the images to look. My edits today, although I love this image on the left, my edits today don't look at all like that. These are very cool greens. We were having a dance party at this session, so really exploring prompts versus stationary poses. Exploring new locations. This is a spot on the right on Westcliff that I had never shot at before. Usually I shoot on the other side of the street. This was right there above the water. And really trying to convey whatever it was that I was trying to say through posing. So in this case, this was a real estate agent locally. So trying to convey that sense of professionalism through the way that I'm posing her. Trying to push myself to find new locations locally. And then again, experimenting with using foreground to add to my composition. Again, my greens look nothing like this today, but I still do love this image with the foreground. Just trying to play around, sort of understand a bit more about composition, creating that sense of depth there in the image. My business has continued to evolve over time, and I was able to utilize local resources like the Small Business Development Center to help me grow. The SBDC is an incredible resource to small business owners. Their website states whether it's access to human resources, compliance, marketing, accounting, or any other business need, SBDC is your one-stop shop for accelerating small business success. They were an invaluable resource and ultimately helped me get the funding needed to upgrade my gear and take my business to the next level. I had an amazing advisor, and he helped me brainstorm the direction to take my business in. We discussed how photography in our area is a saturated market and how I could curate an experience for my clients that was one of a kind or showcase my unique perspective. He encouraged me to apply for a grant, and that was what helped to kickstart my business financially. I was able to receive grant money from the Dream Fund, which helped me to invest in professional grade gear, along with other miscellaneous startup costs for my business. Winning the grant money made everything feel real, and things continued to evolve. So here are a few slides. I'm primarily a self-educated photographer. I did take a few Photoshop classes at Cabrillo, but just some things that I loved. Caitlin James, I would watch her videos online, and you get to see a full session and how she interacts with clients, how she's posing them, what she's saying to them in those in-between times where I talked about socially it's hard. Adobe Live was wonderful. There's so many tips and tricks on Adobe, and if you're ever struggling with a Photoshop or Lightroom problem, they are an incredible support. Moving on, I had wonderful experiences taking classes at Cabrillo. This was a diptych that I created during COVID times, just kind of based on texture and leading lines. And you used to be able to rent photography gear through their department. I think you probably still can. So even if you don't have the gear needed, don't let that stop you. They're wonderful. And this was the SBDC that I mentioned. I spoke with an advisor. They helped me create a business plan and really figure out which direction I wanted to go. Access to capital, they helped me. They encouraged me to apply to the Dream Fund, which allowed me to invest in that professional grade gear. Eventually, in late 2023, I began taking on weddings, and I've loved that experience too. It started when I was asked to photograph an extended family member's wedding and has been growing from there to become my largest source of income in my business. I now advertise my wedding photography on Google and Zola. I have found again in this field of photography that my fellow photo colleagues and wedding vendors are the most wonderful people, and there is such a sense of camaraderie amongst vendors on a wedding day. We are all there to serve the couple and help however we can. I have had DJs let me stash my gear behind their booth and collaborated on posing with videographers. Planners who check in on me to make sure I have eaten, and the most beautiful floral arrangements I think I've ever seen. I even told my husband I think we need to do a vow renewal because I keep seeing all these beautiful and creative ideas at weddings, and I want to get in on the magic myself. And the venues. I have been lucky enough to shoot at some of our amazing venues around here. From the Waterfall Lodge in Ben Lomond to Hakone Gardens in Saratoga, each one more breathtaking than the last. It took a lot of preparation for me to be ready to shoot weddings. I know that this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I do not take that lightly. I invested in a second camera body, and both cameras have dual card slots. I also invested in a new flash so I could have multiples. I wanted to be adequately prepared, as being a photographer is part of being a photographer is having a backup plan in case you have some sort of gear malfunction, or having a backup plan when something unexpected happens, like norovirus working its way around the family the week of a wedding, which happened to me. Or on another occasion when a busy and very windy day at the beach was where our ceremony would take place. I had to adapt to the environment and quickly brainstorm how to navigate the busy area near the tide, so I was able to still deliver amazing photos to my client. I feel like it's important to consider what may happen and try to be prepared for anything, whether that means having backup gear, multiple hard drives to back up images onto, or having a second shooter willing to step up if there is a family emergency. Another aspect of wedding photography is communication. I tend to be very communicative because I want my clients to feel well cared for leading up to their sessions. It is a lot of communication and planning, but before you know it, the big day arrives. Overall, I have found that shooting weddings has a lot in common with raising kids. It can be very stressful, but also very fulfilling. Understanding the weight of not being able to recreate the moment, while simultaneously working with the most amazing couples and vendors at the most stunning locations, is quite a mix of emotions. When it is all said and done, I have so much pride in delivering a wedding gallery and imagining my couples strolling through their images to recap the day. And then to hear from them afterwards and hear how much they loved their photos or what their favorite images were. And my absolute favorite moments are the in-between times. Just a few months ago, at my last wedding of the year that took place over the hill, we were doing portraits on the golf course. The couple went to move from one location to another, and the groom helped the bride swoop up her cathedral-length veil, and they began walking to the next spot. Or another time at a wedding that took place in Santa Cruz, I watched a daughter toast with her mother to celebrate the big day that they were able to share together as her mom had just gotten married. This day marked a new chapter just beginning in their lives. I took a photo, and that has quickly become one of my all-time favorite images of that wedding day. Or at another wedding when the dance floor opened up and the groom held up his grandma as they shared a dance together. I felt so honored to capture such a special moment in their lives. I find that these in-between moments are the richest and so full of connection and life. And while a beautifully posed portrait is also a treasured memory, so was this groom's dance with his grandmother. So I'll show you some wedding work now. So this is my current work. We're transitioning into current work now. This was that last wedding that I mentioned in October. This was another wedding in the summer this year. Just so many beautiful locations around here. So much fun I've had the most wonderful couples. Sometimes I feel like I will deliver an image in color and also black and white because sometimes I feel like, especially with wedding photos, the emotion reads so strongly in a black and white photo. So this is actually my brother-in-law here. This second one is a client that I'm actually working with tomorrow. I shot her wedding a few years ago. It's kind of fun to have that their family's grown since they got married, and so getting to document and share that experience with them is amazing. This was up in Ben Lomond at Highlands Park. The Waterfall Lodge, the center one was from the Seymour Center. Just a lot of, again, capturing that connection. I love these photos with just the hands because you can see the connection there among the clients. This was on the right at the Hollins house. This was at the Seymour Center. And then we'll pause there. I work very hard to ensure that all my clients, whether they are booking family portraits, maternity, seeding portraits, headshots, or weddings, have the same level of care and communication as my other clients. My goal is that they book a session with me and after leaving the session, feel that they have made a friend throughout the experience. When you think about it, there are many personal moments you share with your photographer. As a family portrait photographer, I may be adjusting a client's clothing, helping them comb their hair back into its curls, or playing games with the kids during our session, like peekaboo from behind my camera. I'm up close and personal as I adjust their hand placement or the way their clothing falls as I pose them. Or as a wedding photographer, I'm with the couple all day, more so than any other vendor. I'm there in the morning when they carefully clasp the necklace that their grandma had given to them for their special day, or when their mom sees them for the first time in their wedding dress, and they share an emotional and heartfelt hug. I'm there when they glance over their vows as all the wedding day jitters wash over them, and I'm there to give them their first hug after the ceremony to tell them, congratulations, you did it, before we head off to take portraits. I feel so honored that my clients trust me with their special moments more than anything else that means the world to me. I am excited to say that things continue to grow, with this autumn being the busiest I've ever been in my business. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because I know we're getting close on time. And so I'll show you a little bit of current work. So what my work looks like now. This was just taken about a month ago at Natural Bridges. Again, just family connections. I love to pose my clients where there's lots of arms, you're hugging someone, you're having that physical connection or sharing a glance, that emotional connection. Here's some more work from just within the last month or so. Just all kinds of different locations, these wonderful clients. This was at Lighthouse Field. The one second in from the right was New Brighton, Henry Cal, and then this was at a local hair salon, just kind of some headshots there. Continuing on, I kind of do a little bit of everything. So you'll see this was kind of a little bit of a newborn session, a little bit of family portraits, maternity there, and then just portraits. It kind of keeps things interesting, I find. These were grad portraits for some UCSC students. And then again, just family portraits there on Westcliff. My composition has evolved. I really try to be thoughtful what I'm framing in the camera. I'm still taking composition courses and will be a lifelong learner in that department. And then this was just at Natural Bridges just about a month ago. Okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead. And get to the closing here. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay. Although many parts of my business have changed and evolved throughout the years, I still have a couple of common threads that have stayed with me the whole time. I always put the client first and work collaboratively with them. I feel like connection is so important, and I value each family's input on what works best for them. My family is the most important thing in the world to me, and I wanted to try to honor that connection in other families. This often means ending my shoots by saying, "Are there any other photos you'd like us to grab while we're here?" All right. I also carry with me the many years of experience working with kids of all ages. I understand that it may take a while for a kiddo to warm up with me at a family portrait session, and that's totally okay. It also means I have lots of experience with different ages, and I'm not easily intimidated at family portrait sessions or by large group photos. And being a parent myself gives me an added understanding. Together, working with my clients, I try to make everything go as smoothly as possible. Also, it is still very important to me to utilize local resources, whether that means scheduling a photo meeting at my favorite local coffee shop or buying props locally. This has been a constant consideration. I feel working together collaboratively with other local businesses is very important. And in addition to that, I really believe in supporting other local photographers in my community. I have many photographer friends, and we all feel that community is more important than competition, which I even have a sticker somewhere on my computer that says that. If one of us is unavailable on a date, we will refer to another fellow photographer, and the other way around. We have an amazing group of photographers in Santa Cruz County, and I am honored to be part of this group of professionals. And lastly, I just want to give a little shout out. I could not have created my business without so much amazing support from my husband, who's in the back. He has been so encouraging and helpful throughout everything, especially this last busy season where we've hardly seen each other at all. Thanks for supporting me in this and having my back. Thanks so much for having me today and letting me share a little bit about my business.
Hey, time for a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
So when I started out to do weddings, the biggest fear I had is not capturing the moment.
Yeah.
A malfunction of the camera.
Yes.
The moment is happening. How do you work that? Do you have
Yeah.
camera?
Yeah. That's my biggest fear too. So part of when I got the Dream Fund money, I was able to invest in a second camera body. And then what I'll do at weddings is I have a harness. So I have one on each side. And then they each have dual card slots. Because my other fear was, what if a memory card malfunctions or something? And then I'll go home and back the photos up onto two SSD drives. So just so much backup.
My question was the moment.
The moment.
The moment, like for instance, when I do, that's it.
Yeah, and it goes so fast. I keep both cameras.
But you take two cameras at the same time.
Yes, I do. I'm wearing a harness. I keep both cameras on me the whole time. And so if I were to have some sort of malfunction, I'll switch to the other camera. They're both set up to be ready to shoot at the same settings for that moment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
The bride is in bright white, the groom is in black. How do you deal?
It's tough. It's so tough. I know. I always go a little bit underexposed and then try to make up for it in post-production, but it's tough. That's a big contrast.
Other question is, clearly making the prints is a whole big part of it.
Right.
So how much fiddle do you have to do with getting the prints right?
Yeah, right now I'm communicating with a couple about an album and prints. It's a lot of back and forth. I find that Zoom meetings help because then they can kind of see the samples and the proofs on my computer, and then I'm able to really deliver on what they're seeing. I'm more of a visual person, so allowing them to be able to see that prior is important to me. I do deliver digitals and then a hard drive to my wedding clients. And then if they want to print, that's an additional fee on top of that. So I don't have prints built into photo packages, but it is an important part, especially for wedding portraits. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jenny. Let's take a break.
But a lot of examples. So it's not as much talk as it is examples.
Good. Yeah.
Uh,
Better.
Going back in my history, like anybody who's getting a little bit older, unfortunately, my wife had back surgery. Okay, and that's affected our lives significantly in that we used to travel, and when we got done with that, we did more travel. Okay, now there is no travel. Okay, physically, it just can't be done.
Keith, could you stand in front of your computer?
Physically, it just can't be done. So my love for photography is obviously never going to change, and so it did this. Okay, an example. My heroes going way back. Steve McCurry with the Afghan Girl. You probably all know her. At least you know the Afghan Girl that was National Geographic cover. My hero. Okay, I loved everything that he did in terms of the people that he worked with. That's what I did when I traveled. Okay, and it was very easy. When you are in a unique environment, when you're in way up at 12,000 feet in the Himalayas in a small little village, it's so overwhelming. It's just your pictures are everywhere. Okay, the people are unique. It's just an experience. You don't get that when you're not in that type of environment. Another example, way back. I mean, we all started off just doing outdoor photography. My hero at that time was Galen Rowell. Okay, very well known for his outdoor photography. I followed him completely. I'm not in the Sierras anymore. I'm not at 10,000 feet hiking and taking those type of pictures. It's gone. Okay, so what you have to do is do this. Now, first of all, I have three people that have affected me very significantly all the way through my picture taking. We're going to start off with Pete Turner. Pete Turner is a very famous photographer known for his color. Okay, I'm going to give you an example here in a little bit, but his whole deal was color. I mean, knock your eyes out color. That's what I loved about him. The second person who affected us significantly is back when we were in school. My wife was an art major. One of her professors, his name was Roger Obeck. He had a profound influence on us because his whole focus was you have standard composition and then you have variations on composition. I live on variations of composition. Okay. An example, the rule of thirds. We all know the rule of thirds. Okay, that is a very comfortable place to be. It makes a great photograph. Most of your photographs are going to use that. But something else is going to work better. It's better dead center than it is down on one of the thirds. The decision that you make. Third person having an influence on me, and it is right now. His name is Martin Rotz. He is a Dutch photographer. He makes his living driving around Europe in the back of his van. You subscribe to his magazine, and that's how he makes his living. But you'll see in the examples, he does exactly what I do. Okay. Now we're going to get there, but maybe that'll come up in a little bit. So anyway, those are the three people. Those are the people who've had the influence. So let's get started. Pete Turner. this is what I mean by color. Like, wow. That's what he's known for. That's what he does. This happens to be a hotel down in Cabo San Lucas. It's the Westin Regina. And we used to have a condominium in Cabo, so we spent our entire adult life raising our kids in Mexico. Westin Regina was built. I went and saw it for the first time, and I went, oh my Lord, I've never seen anything like this. Well, at that same time, Pete Turner's there. Okay. This is what Pete Turner does with that hotel. Wow. Okay. So that's the first thing is color. The second thing is the center slide. That's what you're all taught to do. Okay. Roger says, that's all right to do that, but think, what if it was like that? Or what if it was like that? Okay, so you've got variations on the norm. And it's really kind of funny. My wife and I, now 60 years later, we'll get along, we will see something. It's just that influential. Okay, and then Martin Rotz, the Dutch photographer, this is what I'm talking about, is he drives around Europe and he sees these are just walls. Okay, these are all structural parts of a building that are, well, okay. Now, this is an example of what's happened to me is because this is obviously doing this. And that's what I have to do. Okay, and that's where the concentration has come from. Now, when you get going, this is where the talk, I mean, we got a little bit more to say, and then this is where the talk almost kind of ends, and we're on our own. Okay, I learned this from two people. One, Sean Tucker. This book here is called "In the Meaning in the Making." He's a present day YouTuber right now. Okay, and this is where I got the idea. And this is the thing is Art and Fear, and this is written by our own person, Ted Orland, our Ted Orland, okay, from Cabrillo. These two books, the concepts that I'm going to talk about, basically come from here. By the way, Ted Orland is the father of CODA, which is the group that Barry and I belong to. He's the one who got it all started. And he's still in town doing his thing. Anyway, the whole concept of what they said, what I've focused on is, and I'm going to tell you, well, no. When you see things, your eyes stops on things. Okay, and when it stops, it's stopped for a reason. You don't necessarily know what that reason is, but it's stopped. Okay, when it stopped, it's your job as a photographer to find out, why did my eyes stop? Okay, interpret what happened and go into why my eyes stopped. And many times if it stopped because it's a photograph. Okay, so as you look around, it's going to happen to everybody. As you look around, just, I noticed that, I noticed that, I noticed that. Okay, and if you notice that your eyes stopped for a reason, as many times it's going to be difficult to figure out what that reason is, but it stopped for a reason. If you can interpret why it stopped, you may have a photograph. So as you go around, your eyes stops, you say, okay, my eyes stopped. Why did it stop? Look a little closer. Look a little closer. Look a little closer. And you go, that's why it stopped. There's a photograph. Or it stopped because I got something in my eye and it stopped. Okay. But if it is a photograph, you found something. Okay. And this is happening everywhere, all around you, all the time. Okay. It's a lot of fun. But a word of warning. If you start to do what I'm talking about, there's no turning back. okay, is it grows on you so much that it just becomes you, that your eye is stopping. Okay, and when it's fun, okay, but it can be a little bit overwhelming. Okay, and if you are a real photographer, you want to do something about it. Okay, happened to me while I was sitting right there listening to Jenny. I saw a photograph through the window. I went, oh my God. Okay, it took everything I had to not get out of that chair and do it. Okay, because it was there. And if we have time at the end of this, I'm going to take that photograph for you. I'm going to show you what it was, and you'll see what I was talking about. But it becomes that overwhelming, okay, that stop, and you got to do something about it. But if you do, it's a great journey. So here we go. These are the two books that I just talked about. Sean Tucker and Ted Owen's book, The Art and Fear. Okay, what is it that stops your eye? Pardon?
Thanks to puddles. No, on the previous slide.
Ooh, how do I go back?
Should be back arrow.
Back arrow on the bottom right.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, what is it that stops your eye? More than likely, it's one of three things. It's color, it's composition, or it's light, or a combination of those. Okay, now this is where we start to freewheel it, because that's it. That's kind of the end of the speech. Okay, I'm going to just show you many examples of color, composition, and light, and how it turned into a photograph.
I have.
Okay, starting off with this one.
I've shared it with
Color.
you.
Here we are at Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco. Walk into the bathroom in there, my wife's in front of me, and I go, uh-oh. You know, you can see color. What are we going to do about that? Well, now we start to focus on it a little bit more, and we start to see it develop. There's the end product. Okay. Beginning to end. You see how it developed?
Yeah.
The initial view, this is in my living room. We're looking at my television set, for God's sakes. Okay, that's the initial view. I'm getting a little bit closer.
Period.
That's the
Thank you.
final shot. Okay, and it just progressed down to that. Start to finish. Next one, we all recognize the arch. That's the initial view. That's inside the arch. Love that kind of stuff. Okay. That's the final view. So it went from that to that.
Wanted me to meet.
Then we're going to do it again. The arch. That's the initial view. Now I'm down upstairs, these reflections on the floor.
Oh, I missed the first presentation.
Okay, I'm getting closer.
Period.
That's the final shot. So we went from that to that.
Can I just ask quickly, how much post-production is in this, or are these actual shots that you took?
God,
Be there for a
that's a
week.
great question.
She
I don't
is here
know.
a week.
The
We'll want to meet you.
like Jenny, I've been dealing with Photoshop and Lightroom forever.
Very pretty
Enough to
person.
realize I don't know anything about it. It's so overwhelming. Okay, I'm mostly
Very
down
pretty.
to Lightroom, like probably most of us. Okay, and with that, fortunately, they invented this at just the right time. I have a thing that's called MX keys. Okay, they are two little pieces that made by Logitech that hook into any program you want, but in this case, Lightroom, where you just have buttons that you set up for the different sliders. Okay, and when you hit the button, it goes to that slider, and then the other thing is a wheel. You just turn the wheel and it moves the slider. Okay. I've set up that machine that I just have all the sliders that I would typically use on Lightroom in this thing. So I start with button number one, I hit it and I turn the thing and go, oh, that looks good. Number two, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Until I either went too far or I end up at the end product. So how much post-production is there? Probably a lot, but probably not a lot. Because when I hit the button, I do this, go, nah, no, I don't want that. I don't want to. Oh, that looks good. Okay, so I'm nudging it all a little bit, but I'm not replacing the St. Louis Arch with, Joe's Tacos in Santa Cruz. I'm not doing any of that stuff, but I am changing the hues and the colors and the vibration, vibrance and that type of stuff. That. Okay, initial view. And lesson here. Because it sort of almost happened 10 minutes ago. When you are out and about and you see a shot, and we've all experienced this, don't ever give it up. Don't ever say, I'll be back tomorrow. It's more convenient an hour from now. It doesn't work. If you see it, stop and do it. Okay. You make a lot of enemies, but at least you got the shot. Okay. This is a prime example, but this is one where it actually did work. We're down in by that yellow building, and I go, oh my Lord. Okay. My wife was with me. It was not convenient, and I said, I'm going to come back. Well, fortunately for me, this time it worked, because many times it doesn't. We did come back and it was still a yellow building and, everything worked. But be careful. If you see the shot, take the time to do it right then. Anyway, here's the initial shot. Now we're getting a little bit closer. There's the final shot. So start to finish. Initial view. This is in Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. Walking down the stairs. I was fortunate that I had a little part of a show there a couple months ago with the Wes Anderson show. And I had a big piece in there. And this is with my daughter. After the show, we're walking down the stairs and I said to my daughter, stop. Okay. So we went from that to this to this. So start to finish. This is in Scotts Valley. Drive by, you see the thing, say, oh, isn't that cool? Okay, and get out of the car, let's take a look at it. That's the initial view. It's a whirligig. Now we're getting a little bit closer. There's the final shot. Start to finish. This one is extremely important to me. This is in Norway, okay, and the color, it's obvious. Okay, look at the color. Okay, but this one led to to me, it's called the bathroom series. Okay, and because of this, I've concentrated on bathrooms ever since I made this stupid trip to Norway. And I tell you, there is so much going on in bathrooms. Okay, you can make an entire series out of it. Okay, if you don't believe me on this, when we're done, go down and look at the bathroom in this place. Okay, I didn't have time because I had to come back for this. Holy moly, what a bathroom you got down there. Unbelievable. So anyway, this is where it started. We're getting on the train and I see that orange and I go, wow, look at that color. Okay, then we're getting closer. There's the orange. That's the final shot. That's the start of the bathroom series. Anyway, from start to finish. Okay, so that's color. Now we got composition. This is classic of what I just told you. We were in not past slow, San Luis Obispo. Okay, and we're in a corner. We hit the walk thing. We start to walk across the street, and what the walk saying is, okay, it's time to walk. I look back over my shoulder and I turn around and I walk back, and my wife goes, "My God, what are you doing?" Okay, well, I saw this behind us, and I walked back while she's stuck in the middle of the street. Okay, and I said, "This is just too much." Okay, so that's the initial view. That's what stopped me. Then I get a little bit closer and I said, "This is really cool." There's the final shot.
That's cool.
From the start, in the middle of the street with the walk sign blinking, to the final shot.
Ah,
This is the initial view. We are on the Mississippi River. This is a restaurant on the Mississippi River. Look over and I see this and I say, this is really cool. I'm not sure what it is I really like about it, but there's something in there that I really like. Okay, so then I get a little bit closer and I say, all right, now I know what it is, by the way. Is it any wonder?
yeah.
Okay, to the final shot. Okay, this one actually won a prize. This one was shown in the Rhode Island Museum of Art and History. It's hanging there right now. Start to finish. Once again, on Mississippi River, initial view, I see these towers. I said, that's really cool. Obviously, that stops your eye. But what is it about it that really stops your eye? Okay, so now we get a little bit closer and I say, all right, maybe that's what it is. That's what it was. So start to finish. This is right here in Santa Cruz. In fact, I am delivering this print to the owner tomorrow. This is on Portola Avenue. If I'm gonna tell you where it is, and if you try to see it, make sure you don't get in an accident. Okay, if you're going down Portola towards Twin Beaches, right before the road goes down to Twin Beaches, across from there's a windmill restaurant. On your left-hand side, okay, is this yellow building, but you really don't see it until you're on it. So when you get to it, you look over your left shoulder, you'll see it, but be careful because you look the wrong way when you look for this building, but it is right there. Now that I've told you where it is, you're not going to be able to not see it. Anyway, that's the initial view. Now we're getting closer. That's the final shot. And I talked to the owner, I said, and I'm delivering to her the print. She says, I never saw that myself. Start to finish. Lens arts, we all know it. That's the initial view. Now I'm getting a little bit closer. There's the final shot. Start to finish. This is down at Moss Landing. Okay, you see that, and this is kind of a good example of what I'm talking about. If you look at that, does there something just jump at you?
Octopus.
Octopus and I like.
Okay, that's,
One of them.
okay, to me, it's that,
Where?
this,
Hmm.
right here.
Uh,
Okay, I'm quite some distance away, I look down there and I say, I'm not sure what it is, but something seems good down there. So I take off walking down into it. Okay, now I'm getting closer. There's the final shot. But that's a good example. What I'm talking about is something stopped your eye. What was it? And then you have to figure it out.
So you were saying before that when you get this aha moment, you say, but you don't just stand there and see what it is. You wait to post work on it. In other words, you don't do
You
it.
really want to know the secret to this thing?
Yeah.
Is
That's what I did.
is thank God we no longer shoot film, but we shoot digital.
Yes.
Okay, if this was film, I would be broke. Okay, with digital, when I start back there, I go, yep, yep.
Oh, right, okay, okay.
Oh man, I'm getting it. I'm not what, you know, and 30 shots later, you go, yeah, I got it.
And then you,
The 30 shots.
the one you say, aha, on a moment, you post it again. You
Oh,
work on it again.
probably, yeah. I'll do another 30 shots. You know, once I've found it. I'm just ridiculous that way. And what's even worse is I don't throw it away afterwards. I got all 60 of them. But yes, that's. Right now I'm shooting almost exclusively with Olympus. In this case, right now an Olympus OM3, it's their newest camera. Just the greatest little camera. I just love it to death. That, and then I'm also shooting with a Ricoh GR3, GR3X. That's a little pocket camera, and probably, it's a cult camera. It's probably one of the best cameras I've ever had. And if all else fails, the iPhone. That one would be with the Olympus. So start to finish.
Right.
Then the third category, light. Start off, I see this building. This is on Highway 25, out in Central California. And I see it. I know there's something there, but what is it? Now I'm getting closer. There's the final shot. Start to finish. This is at the San Francisco, the Van Gogh exhibit, the immersive Van Gogh. Okay, you're in there, this just all immersive, you go, this is way cool. Something is affecting me. Well, what is it? Now I get a little bit closer. I say, all right, but now I'm close. That's the final shot. Start to finish. Initial view back in San Luis Obispo. I just see this whole thing. What a great little best, by the way, best sandwiches you could ever get anywhere. Is it this market? That's where we started. Okay, then I get in here and I say I'm getting close. That's the final shot. Start to finish. This is in Paso Robles. Okay, I see that roof. I go, wow, look at this. Okay, we're getting started with something. What am I gonna do? Okay, now I'm getting a little bit closer and I say, all right, this is way cool. And that's what we end up with. Start to finish. This is right here in Santa Cruz. This is out near the lighthouse, the Surfers Lighthouse. There's a Catholic church right there. Yeah, this is an example of where I've gone too far. Okay, and you look and where you back off. Okay, I see this and I say, I know that there's a picture there that's pretty cool. Get that, and I say, yep, that's what it is I was looking at, but I've gone too far. Well, how boring is that? Okay, so this is where I back off. Okay, and it actually this now it turns into a photograph. So start with finish. This one is just the greatest example, and if we have time, I'm going to show it to you because I just saw it again. I said, right now as we talk, excuse me, my eye wants to take a photograph. Okay, I'm sitting right there. She's talking, and I'm looking through the window, and out through that window, you see that window. You can probably see it where you're sitting. Window, you probably see the reflection of this in that window. Okay, from that chair you do, you see the reflection of this screen in that window, and then you see that door behind it. Okay, and you put all three of those together, it's the perfect scenario that if you want to get people's attention, or you want to make them stop and look at your photograph for more than a glance. Okay, if you can have them stop and look at your photograph for 10 seconds, you got them. Okay. And one way you do that is through depth. If you got the one level of the door, pretty boring. The door plus a reflection in that window, now you got two levels. Okay, now it's starting to become interesting. You go to the door, that reflection, and the door behind it is to really become a photograph. Okay, because you got three levels. On this one, and this is what almost got me out of my seat, is through that window, you got people in that room, and occasionally they walk by. Okay, or well, the one guy came by and he held his daughter up in that window to look in at us as we were talking. What a picture! Oh my God. But anyway, on that one, if you go 4 levels in, it's amazing because people are going to look at it and look and say, oh, I can go in deeper, I can go in deeper, I can go in deeper. Okay. Well, this is what's happening here. This is at Johnny's restaurant, Johnny's Harborside. Okay, and you got these 2 levels. Okay, at the door, and you're looking into the kitchen. And I say, well, that's pretty cool. Okay, so snap, we take the picture. Okay, but it's not doing that much. But now, look at that. Okay, now we got this level here, we got that level there, and we got something going on. Okay, something to make your attention, to draw you into it. And say, all right, now we got a photograph. I thought I was done until I'm standing there taking this picture. The guy comes by from the side, the door swings into my face as the waiter is coming out. Okay, and we get this one. Okay, and this is the waiter coming out. He's as much shocked as I am because I'm standing that far away from him. Okay, but look at this thing now. Okay, one level, another level, another level, and another level. Okay, so you just stop and you just keep going into it. So then what happened with my, okay, the start, the finish. Okay, now we're about to wrap it up. This is critically important, and we all learned it the hard way, is you see the shot, you think you're done with it, okay, is many times, many times, the shot is behind you, it's not what you originally thought. Your eyes stopped you in a great place, but the actual shot was behind you, not what you did. So always, when you do take a shot, turn around and look backwards. And you can amaze yourself. These are examples of that. Okay, where I'm down on Seabright Avenue, Okay, I'm at Days Market. I'm not sure you know where it's the corner of Murray and Seabright. They got this mural wall, and I take the pictures of that. And I think I'm ahead of myself. No, I am ahead of myself. Excuse me, across the street, and I see this building, and I say, all right, there's something going on here. Okay, that's the start. Okay, now I'm getting closer. That's the shot. Okay, that was behind me. I was busy doing something else. And when I looked across the street and saw this, start to finish. Down at Moss Landing, the same thing, okay, where we had that thing up in the air, in the boat building. Okay, I'm back at the car, I'm putting the camera in my car, and I look up and I see this and I go, oh my Lord. Okay, pull the camera back out and go the opposite direction behind my back. Okay, this is what I initially saw. Now I'm getting closer to what I saw. That's the final image. Or, there you go, start to finish. This is what I started to tell you about. This is Days Market, Seabright and Murray. Okay, then they got this big mural and I stopped for that. Okay, I'm putting the camera in my car. I look across the street and this is where I get one of my all-time favorite images. All time. Okay, now I'm getting close. That's the final image. Okay, and I saw that as I was literally putting the camera into the trunk of my car. And that is it. So, any questions?
You have any shows that are coming up anywhere?
I just had a big one at the Blitzer. And it's all this same type of thing that from Coda, there is a group of us that have split off and we get together once a month and it's print work. And we just had a big show. I had 12 pieces showing at the Blitzer. We do have a show coming up at the Blitzer this spring, okay, where I'm going to have a couple of pieces. It won't be the main show. I hope that answers it. Right now, I do not. Too bad. 2 months ago, I say, yeah, go get over to the Blitzer.
So I'm not a photographer, but I have 20,000 pictures on my iPhone. And you said something in the beginning, the main theme of your talk, in fact, is when your eye catches something.
Right.
Pay attention to it.
Right.
And that's something I've always done. So for example, I'm walking along the trail and I look down and there's a tiny little bug that's just sitting there and maybe moving a little bit. And I cannot take my eye off.
There you go.
I want to watch it. I want to see where it goes. I want to do all that. I never thought to take a picture of it.
What can I say?
Yeah,
You know, other than your life is no longer going to be your own. That's
So Keith, you're doing things at distance and close in. Are you using a zoom lens or is this all cropping afterwards?
It's both. Okay. When I say both, I put on the zoom when I have to. I rarely do. I put it on one. I just can't get close enough. But your real zoom is with your feet. Is that shot I talked about right there? Okay, on that one from here it would have been ridiculous. Okay, I would have had to walk over there and I would have, you know, done this. So it is mostly not Zoom. Okay, it's Zoom when you have to, but it's not to zoom in on something. It's just you got too much stuff. You gotta narrow it down.
When you walk, you're not going straight like you zoom. It looks like when you walk closer to something, you're not taking a straight path.
A drunk coming out of the bar would think you were sober. Yeah. Yeah, you are just, okay, it's here somewhere. I gotta find it.
So if you're gonna crop, you would lose all the pixels, right, as you're going, you're taking your shot and going to that one spot.
Depends on how expensive your camera is.
I'm sorry, I don't know what the question
No,
was.
that if you crop too much, then it starts to get pixelated.
Oh, yeah. That's where I said to Barry, I put on a zoom when I have to. With the regular lens, you're gonna have X number factor of what you can do to get it in frame. Okay, and if that just doesn't work, that's when you put on the zoom so that is basically full frame of what you want. I kind of learned way back, and much to my chagrin. Okay, I was taught to do all your framing or all your cropping in frame. Okay, in other words, put your whole picture in your frame. That's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Once you start doing that, you sometimes have to learn to not do that. Okay, because you next need that extra space after the fact to do the cropping that you don't have if you did it all in frame. Now, what I mean by that is you have different formats for different cameras, okay? And my printer is 12 by 18, so that's kind of my standard, okay, which is 4 by 6, okay? Well, if the camera is formatted for 3 by 5, I got a cropping problem, okay? And you got to be aware of that to make sure you've got room on the outside so you can make the different ones fit. So do as much as you can in camera, but be aware of the format of your camera and allow room on the outside for movement.
I'm shooting I have 13E. So
Mhm.
what you're saying is true because I do it in the phone actually.
Okay.
And that's not enough because you're just taking I'm just taking that particular shot.
Well, you can zoom in on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's the iPhone is no different than any other camera that if you got too much, move.
Right.
Okay, so I think we have to wrap it up. So thank you very much.
Folks, we have two, chairs for things. And are you done on all of us? Yes.